You've been playing that wrong. This is another episode in a series of videos designed to answer frequently asked questions or clear up confusions in the board game Vantage. And today's episode concerns what happens when two players need the same card. Or one player gets the same card multiple times. So the first scenario I'm going to cover, we have a two-player game here. And the first scenario I'm going to cover is that this character here has already obtained card 845. What happens if they take an action and they are told that they gain card 845? Very simple. If you would ever gain a card that you already have in your grid, then you simply add one boost to that card, assuming that the card takes boost tokens and that you have room to take more. Okay, so that's all that happens in that situation. Second scenario. Let's say that this character over here is doing something at a completely different location. They take an action, and they're told that they gain card 845. Well, there's only one card 845 in the box, and in fact, it's not in the box now. It's down on the table next to the other player in the game. You have two options. You can either leave that card where it is, or you can take that card, okay? So in other words, this player here has those two options, and you would work it out with your partners at the table. If you decide the card's really good where it is, let's just keep it there, then as compensation for not gaining anything, you would gain a boost on your character. So that's one possible way this could play out. Another possibility, though, is to say, well, actually, I really could use that card. That would be helpful for me. I'm going to take it. In that case, what you do is you clear off the card completely. Any challenge dice that were on the card go back into the dice pool, which is generally a bad thing. And any boost on that card are removed as well. And then you can transfer that card to the other player's grid. Now, that card you act now at this point like that you just drew that card out of the box. So you would get any when placed benefits that go on the card. Some cards get some boost tokens on it right at the beginning. Okay, so that's what happens in that scenario, and I'm just going to reset this back the way that we had it. All right, next scenario. Let's imagine that this player here is at location 284, and they decide to depart south. Now that is an asterisk, so they don't really know where they're going when they do this. That's not really relevant to this example. And I don't know where it goes, okay? But let's just pretend that they read in the book that they have to roll some dice, they depart south to location 151. Location 151 is not in the box because it's on the back side of the location where the other character is located. This doesn't come up very often, but the game simply suggests you pass that card back and forth so that the player that's currently the active player has the card in their card holder. And of course, when this is removed to be passed, there's that original placeholder card that's sitting there. And then we can flip that card over. Now it's card 151, and this player can use that location. So just pass the cards back and forth. Scenario won't come up very often. It should be really easy to remember who owns the card that's now missing from their card tableau. Fourth scenario. Let's imagine that this character departs south, and they find that takes them not to location 151, but to location 150. They are now on the same location. They've been reunited with one another, okay? So a couple things to keep in mind in this unusual situation. One is that whatever action this player takes at that location cannot thematically conflict with any actions that have already been taken at that location. In fact, that's true regardless of whether these players are simultaneously there or maybe the purple character visits that location long after this character's departed. But this character's already done something to mess with that location. And the game says you can't take an action that would thematically conflict. This does require you to kind of remember the storyline of the game, which sometimes is easier than other times. But for example, let's imagine that on the previous turn, this character had taken the catch action, and in fact maybe had caught 845 there, okay? And now this character departs south and ends up on location 150. They can't take the catch action, that's already been taken. And in fact, they probably shouldn't take the hunt action either, because they would be probably hunting this thing that has already been captured. And I suppose it would be up to your group to decide if that's thematically conflicting. I suppose one character could catch an animal and then release it to be hunted by another character or something like that. It really comes back, when you have a scenario like this, to the rule of thematic fun. You have to decide if what action you're taking is really in conflict with the action that's been taken by another character, okay? So that's a little bit of a kind of make it up as you go along in the spirit of the game. There may be other actions on this card that would be not conflicting, and so on. Now, another thing that occurs when two characters are at the same location, so now we're both at location 150, okay? Because these characters are together, they can do certain things together. So for example, one thing they can decide to do is to share money. And so we might have this character give this character $2 because this character figures with $6 they can do something interesting with their character's buy action, okay? And it could be that they decide they want to share some items as well. And page 10 in the rule book deals with this situation where, is that right? Yes, if another player's on your location, you can give them coins, items, flora, and vehicles. So for example, this character here has an item that they decide might be better off used by the other player. And so we can pass this item over to the other player's grid. Now, unfortunately, the rule book is silent about what happens to the dice. In this situation, I think it's probably best to keep the dice with the card. However, I'm not quite sure how you would adjudicate that particular rule because it's not specified in the book. In the earlier example, when the purple player gained card 845, if they decided that the card would go to the new player, you clear that card off. But that, I think, is because they're at some different location, and 845, which is an animal card, it's just a different animal. It's just a different representation of that species, and so it's completely new. You treat that card like it's taken out of the box. In this case, it's clearly the same tool that's been passed from one character to another, and so I would think its history thematically would stay with it, including any boost tokens that are on it. The book is also silent about that, okay? But it's very specific. You can't pass anything back and forth. They have to be those specific types of cards, items, flora, and vehicles. Other things like sentience could not be passed back and forth between characters, and that makes sense. The sentient is sort of voluntarily there. It's not something that you can just pass around like you own the thing. And then finally, the last thing to know about being at a location with another character is if you choose to move, you can both move together to a new location, and you only have to roll the dice once. Okay, so if we're at location 150 and it's this character's turn, and this character is also at that location, this character could decide, okay, we're moving to a new location. I don't have the locations visible on this card. They're hidden for spoiler reasons, but anyway, let's say they want to move north, and the book says roll 2 dice to move north. You roll the 2 dice, and both characters then move north to that new location. So that should help you deal with situations where the same card is needed by multiple players how you would rule in those cases.